page 8 is a blank sheet of paper, and I want to show you something here. I'm not sure you are going to need this, but just in case you do, I would not be doing a very good job if I didn't show you how to find theta. And I'll give you a problem if you just want to copy this with me. You can pause the video at any time you need to. And let's take a look at how to find theta. So let's suppose that we have a right triangle. And I'm going to sketch one here, or try to. And in this right triangle, we have maybe a building over here. And maybe I know that the height of that building is 100 feet. And I'm standing over here measuring a shadow at this right angle. And I measure the shadow to be 120 feet. We don't really need to know hypotenuse. I won't even draw it in there. But suppose we needed to find the angle of elevation. So if that were the question or the problem to solve, find the angle of elevation. So in other words, they want us to find the value of theta. We want to know this angle measure right here. And trigonometry will allow you to do that. You will actually need to use, it's called an arc function. It's the reciprocal of a function. So let's take a look at how we would do this. The first thing that I would do is set up my HOA theta scaffold. We don't know hypotenuse. We don't need to know it. We know that opposite theta is our building. That's 100 feet. And we know that adjacent to theta is the shadow. That is 120 feet. And we want to know theta. So I would look for the ratio that gives me O and A. That's TOA, tangent. So the tangent of theta, which we don't know theta, but we know that the tangent of theta is going to be opposite over adjacent, or tan theta is 100 over 120, opposite over adjacent. And we can simplify that down to 5 over 6. So the tangent of theta is 5 over 6. I would not do a decimal on this one because it's a repeater and I don't really want to have to round any more than necessary. But there is a function on your calculator that you would use. You use what's called arctan, or tan negative 1. On the Casio, it's right above tan. You would use the shift key. It's a second function. So we're going to use arctan to find theta. There's an arc cosine and an arc sine if you need those to find theta. This is a reciprocal of tan. Okay, so I'm sorry, not a reciprocal, an inverse. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong term. That is an inverse function, not a reciprocal. The reciprocal of tangent is not arctan. It's the inverse of tangent. I am so sorry. I'm on a roll today. So that's the inverse function. All right, so here's how you do it in the calculator. I'm going to draw the buttons because I want to make sure that you know what you're doing. And let me just make a copy of that one, and I won't have you sit here while I try to do this. I should have already had it done. That's why I don't like blank pages, because then you have to sit and wait on me. Let me get this. First key you would always press on this calculator is all clear. And I'm going to copy that group, and we'll make this shorter. So the first button is always all clear, and the last button is always equals. So let's go all clear. And I'm going to go this way. So all clear. You would put in your 5/6. You could put in the 100/12. I'm going to do that one just in case you didn't know to reduce it. But you can put the 5/6. Doesn't matter. 100/120. And then we need to get that inverse of tangent. So you will shift to get to your second function. Press the tan key and equals. And that's going to give you the value of theta. You will have to round it. It's going to be ugly. I'm going to call it about 39.8 degrees. Theta is about 40 degrees, you could even call it. So the person is looking up at that building at an angle of about 40 degrees. If you need theta, you will need an arc function, an inverse function. All right, so now that we've found theta, let's take it a step further. Let me give you this question. And I think I'm going to make this a different color, just so you can see that it's a different question. It's blue. How could we find hypotenuse? And I want to do it two ways. And I will draw the triangle again for you. I want us to see two different ways that we could find hypotenuse. And actually, rather than me draw it again, let me just copy this one, and we'll know that it is exactly the same problem. I'll put it right down here. And I bet you already know one way. I hope so. A Greek fella gave us a theorem that will work for one way. So I'm going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And since I need quite a bit of space for my other method, I'm going to bring that down here. So we know the legs of this hypotenuse. I'm going to let a be 100 squared. B is 120 squared. And that will give me the hypotenuse squared. So I have 100 with 2 zeros. I have 144 with 2 zeros. And that sum will be c squared. So if I add those together, I get 24400 is c squared. And then with my calculator, take the square root. So c is approximately 156.2 feet. So that's one way that we can find hypotenuse. Has nothing whatsoever to do with theta. That's using the outside dimensions, the legs of the triangle. It'll work. But there is another way that we could find hypotenuse. And it's one of the trig ratios. So let's set up H, OA, theta. And we found theta. I'm going to call it about 40 just to make life a little easier. So let's call it about 40 degrees. We know both opposite and adjacent, but we want to know hypotenuse. So we can make this work however we want to. I'm going to use adjacent just because we don't get to do cosine a lot. So let's use the 120 as the other dimension. So I need the ratio that puts h with a, and that's ca. C equals a over h, or the cosine of 40 degrees is adjacent over hypotenuse. That's our unknown. So we're going to multiply both sides by the unknown. I'm having issues with my pen again. I think I'm going to have to buy a new case for my pen. So let's multiply both sides by the unknown. That will allow us to cancel it here. Then I need to move cos 40, so we're going to divide it away from both sides. And my calculator will tell me the unknown. Let me find my calculator. So we have 120. Okay, I don't have enough light to run my calculator. Just can't make up this stuff. Bear with me. I'm getting light on so that I can use my calculator. I apologize. Okay, here we go. 120 divided by the cosine of 40. So all clear. 120 divided by 40 cos. Equals. Don't forget to press equals. And that is not right. Did I do something wrong? I'm sorry, 120 divided by the cosine of 40. There we go. I typed it in my calculator wrong. 156.6. And you might be saying, well, Miss Amanda, that doesn't match. The other one is 156.2. And this is very good to illustrate the importance of rounding. Depending on how you round and where you round and what you round, you're going to get some slight variation. But either of these answers would be close enough for our purposes. If it's a situation where you have to be very precise, you will have instruction about how to round. So just pay attention if there's a rounding rule. That will be especially important on the final for this class. I don't believe on the final I've asked you to find theta. I just wanted to show you how to do this in case you should ever need to know.